Welcome to another episode of HCP Visits. Here's your host, Woody Watts.
Hello, this is Woody Watts with another episode of the Hill City Paranormal Podcast. And today I have a very unique episode. Recently we had the pleasure of interviewing a gentleman that has had multiple alien abduction experiences. And for a while I battled with how to present this episode. We currently have the video available on our website at hillcityparanormal.com, which you can view. However, I wanted to give our podcast listeners the complete interview, uncut, just raw audio, so you could kind of experience what we did while filming Robin's amazing story. And we just did a behind the scenes episode before this one, talking about, how we came to know Robin, the trip there, and kind of some behind the scenes of the trip itself. However, I thought it would be good for everyone to hear Robin's actual full interview, which most of it made it into the video. I really went for like an uncut feel of that because I wanted you to experience what we experienced. And so for our podcast listeners, this is that interview. This is the full interview. The camera did cut out after 30 minutes. It timed out, but I immediately started back. So if you hear a little bit of a pause in between, that's why. But I thought it would be important for you to hear the full uncut interview. So here is Robin's story about his alien abduction experiences. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Robin, and I'm here to talk about an experience or experiences that I had with what I believe to be an abduction, a series of them, and there's no one in this world, not a priest, not a psychologist, that can tell me that didn't happen. I think it started, like I was saying, with my mom. We were talking, my mom was into the paranormal, and not UFOs, but more paranormal stuff. But we used to sit out on the front stoop at night, and we would look at the stars and space. And I started thinking about the vastness of space, and I just couldn't believe that human beings were the only intelligent life forms out there. It didn't ring true to me, with all the room out there, and all the possibilities and probabilities. I just thought, I hope we're not the only ones, my God, because we're like, okay. Anyway, I was in 8th grade when I first remember it happening. Okay, I was in 8th grade and I was coming home alone from a football practice. I guess it was fall because I just had my jersey on and my shoulder pads, and I was riding my bike down Chesterfield Road in our neighborhood, and there's a set of row houses across the street, and I'm on the sidewalk across the street, and all of a sudden from over the row houses I see this round object, and it was, I know, an airplane. This thing had lights going around it, okay, like white bright lights going around it, and it was metallic, okay, and I looked up, and this thing, it was moving across the houses, and then when I saw it, that thing stopped on a dime. A helicopter can't do that, a plane can't do that. I'm old enough to know that, okay, in 8th grade. I'm like, what is that? I stopped in my tracks, and I'm looking at it, and it's hovering like it was looking back at me. It was really strange. And then I'm looking, and I guess my jaw dropped, and I'm like, what the hell could this be? And then all of a sudden, that thing just made a right. It took a 90-degree right and just went, no sound at all, nothing. And then I went home, and I didn't say anything about it because I thought everyone would think, what are you drinking at football practice? What are they smoking over there? So I didn't say anything, but I went to bed, and I could swear that I was transported somewhere. I don't know how, but I know I wasn't home anymore. And I'll go through the story, but I know that I was somehow in the sky on some kind of vessel. And I was on a table. Now, I know everybody hears the X-Files about, the poking and the prodding and the surgical stuff and the drilling of the teeth, and the implants. I didn't have any of that. I did not see any other human beings. I don't remember being hurt ever, but I did see what had me on a table. Oh yeah, and they made noise. It seemed like, okay, they were, I guess, 6 foot tall. They had very long arms, very long legs, and they had like the alien type head. Okay, typical alien type head. But their eyes were like, you ever see a set of like 100 TVs, all small? I mean, their eyes were, I guess, like a fly. They had those little lenses, but there was like 100 of them in their eyes, and they wrapped way back here. Okay, and their ears, they didn't have ears like we did, but they had, I guess, it wasn't digits. It was 2 like flippers, like this, and they pressed buttons with their back to me, and every once in a while they would look at me and make sure I was still on that table. But I felt paralyzed, but not hurt at all. I could see, I could hear, and I know I heard because they made noise. They talked to each other in a click. Not like me, they went click, 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 and they were actually communicating because one would click, 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 and the other one click, 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 and they would be pressing these buttons. But I didn't feel any kind of poking or prodding or no drill. I wasn't harmed, but I'll tell you what, when I got back, when I realized I was back home, okay, you know how you wake up from a good sleep, you feel refreshed? When this happened to me, I was exhausted. I was completely exhausted. I don't know about anybody else because I did talk to someone from MUFON, but I've never really talked to another abductee like I believe I was. And so I don't know what they say, but I was completely exhausted. And I guess it was, now I'm in high school and it happened again. But this time, when I came back, not only was I exhausted, but I knew something happened in time. Like I had lost hours. You know, not the 7 minutes the X-Files does. I had lost hours of my life somehow. And instead of being in bed, rested 8 hours, I was completely drained the next morning. Each time it happened, I was completely drained. Now I'm in high school, and we were going swimming, and this was after my second experience. The first one was in 8th grade, and then I was, I guess, 9th grade. And we were going swimming, and my sister said, "What happened to your back?" I'm like, "Nothing, why?" She's like, "Robin, you have a big, giant scar on your back. It looks like a bullet hole or something." She's like, "You need to get that checked out. That could be cancerous or something." Well, we went to the doctors, and I have asked 100 doctors. I've asked a dozen doctors, "Can you tell me what is on my back?" And not one doctor has been able to tell me what the heck this mark is on my back. And it was never there before. Now, I'll show it to you if you want, but I had never seen anything like it. And no doctor to this day has been able to tell me what it was. One doctor said, "It's a birthmark." I said, "No, silly, that's a birthmark right there." I said, "I had that since birth." I'm like, this came in freshman year of high school. Can you see it? Okay, and if you look close at it, you can see 2 little markings in the middle of it. And that has been with me since freshman year of high school. It never goes away. It never hurts. It itches once in a while. And my mom was beside herself. She's like, "What the heck is that? Did you get burned?" I'm like, "Mom, if it was a burn, it would be, blistered. It would be scabbing." I'm like, "There's never been a scab on it. It never bleeds, but it has been there." And when you see it, you can look into it and see there's 2 little points in there. Okay, like 2 little holes in the middle of it. No idea where it came from. It has been with me since freshman year of high school. And then this is even stranger because I guess it was 2 years after that. I was a senior then, and I thought, maybe I had smoked too much pot or something like that, but I didn't. But I was going again, and it was the same thing. I got up exhausted, and I know I was on some kind of metallic table. It wasn't because it wasn't comfortable. It was not comfortable. It wasn't hurtful. Okay, it wasn't hurtful at all, but it was not comfortable. and I was a little bit, this time, fearful. But something in my head was telling me, you do not have to be afraid, okay? That there's nothing for me to fear, but I was being examined, okay? Because there was these things above me. I don't know how, of course, but I could feel that these beings were checking on me. Like it was the same thing, and I heard the same clicking. I heard the same clicking. I saw the same beings. Okay, I never saw the outside of whatever kind of craft I was in. But I knew damn well that I went from a bed into that craft and that we were flying. I could feel it. You can feel when you're flying. Okay, you can feel it. I knew I was flying, and I knew I was up in the air. I was not hurt, but I wasn't comfortable. But there was something telling me in my head, you don't have to fear, okay? You're going back, you're okay. And what are you going to say? Like, no, I'm going to tell my mom, you better bring me back now. No, I just went with it. And it was, I guess, a couple months later that my mom noticed my arms and hers. My mother and me had the same scars on our arms in the same exact places, both forearms, okay? And can't remember where they ever came from. And they're right here. There's one. Oh, here it is right there. That's a scar. And in the exact same place, and if you measure it, it's the same place. There's one right here, okay, right there. And my mom has the same scars on hers with the same distance from the elbow joint to the scar. Same exact distance. And guess what? My daughter has them. My daughter, Amanda, because one day I said, Amanda, let me see your arms. And she said, no, there's no drugs in me. And I'm like, no, let me see your arms. She has the same scar running across the inside of her forearms. I said, do you know that your grandmother who had passed, I said, she had them. And I said, I had them. She goes, Dad, where did they come from? I'm like, Amanda, I have no idea. And she was with me as a baby. They weren't there. But I noticed them when she was about 12 or 13. You know, teen girls, they should be outlawed. Well, anyway, I noticed them when she turned, I guess, 13 or 14. And I said, wait a minute, let me see your arms. And she's like, what? And I'm like, no, let me see. She had the same exact, see it right here? She had the same exact scars that I had and my mother had. And that was, I guess, senior year. I was a senior in high school. And I know that I was taken again. And then one more time that I can remember, but I was in the Army then. And it happened again, and I don't know how, I never felt transport from my bed to the ship, but I knew I had just moved at some kind of rapid pace. And that I knew that I was laying in my bed and that I somehow got transported and I was flying. And it was the same, I don't know what the outside of the ship looked like, but it was the same kind of insides, and there was all kinds of like instrumentation I had never seen. And there was nobody at a wheel like we would be, like a pilot. This thing was just moving, and I could feel it. And I wasn't strapped down, okay? It was a metallic table, but I was not strapped down. I know, what's his name, David Duchovny, or I know they're all strapped down. I was not held down. Not at all, but I could not move. It was like a paralytic was injected into me somehow, okay? And I was paralyzed, but I could see, I could smell, I could hear perfectly. You know, and at first, that scares the hell out of you, okay? When you're paralyzed, you know, that scares the hell out of you. And I thought, at first I told myself, it's a dream, and you're gonna wake up any minute. No, because when you're in that kind of dream and you say you're going to wake up, your body usually wakes itself up. I could not get out of it, and it was a while that I was there. And again, when I woke up, it was like I had just worked 7 double shifts in a row. I wasn't, you know, okay, if you go out all night with your friends and stuff like that and you wake up tired, this was so different. It was as if my legs and all the muscles in my body had been used constantly for 24 hours, and I was completely drained, And I had to wake up and go to school like that. I was in high school, freshman year, senior year, and then I was in the Army and had to go run PT in the morning, and I was completely drained. And it was the same thing every time. I never saw the outside of the craft I was in, but I knew I was transported, I knew I was in a craft, and I knew I had lost time. I knew, and it wasn't no 7 minutes. I had lost considerable hours of my life. And the weirdest part was the waking up and being totally drained of any energy. You know, I wasn't hurt. I had no hurt, and I started checking myself for more markings. Nothing. And I actually went to an Army doctor. I went to, where was I? I was in Landstuhl Army Hospital in Germany. And I said, Doc, while I'm here, could you do me a favor? I said, can you look at this mark on my back? And he went to look at this mark and he said, did you get burned? And I said, no. He goes, what is that? I'm like, Doc, I have no idea. It's been there since freshman year of high school. He's like, I've never seen anything like that. And I've had people take pictures of this and send it out on the internet asking other people if they had seen something like this. No one's been able to explain what the hell that is. My mom had me checked. She said, maybe that's cancer. Maybe it's some type of skin cancer. They took a piece of it. They said, that's not cancer. It doesn't grow. It doesn't shrink. You can scrub it. It doesn't bleed. It has never bled on me. It has never hurt me, but it's been there since my second experience. And it still has never went away, and still just no one's been able to explain it. And it doesn't bother me at all. I guess now I've come to the realization that what I thought as a child about space is correct. To me, that's correct. Like, there's no one that can tell me that didn't happen to me, and there's no one that can tell me that there's not other intelligent beings out there. Now, I'm not talking little green men, because these guys weren't green and they weren't little. They were much taller than me. And the last experience I had was here in Virginia, and I guess it was about 5 years ago. We're coming down Route 15, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. And we're coming down Route 15, and I'm driving, and my friend Nicole is in the passenger side, and all of a sudden this thing came flying at our windshield. I mean, speed of light flying. Zoom! And stopped at my windshield, and it was this big at my windshield. That's it. It was that big, and then okay, I'm doing 70 miles an hour at 2 in the morning on Route 15. Okay, 15 South. I want to get home. I'm doing 70 miles an hour, and this thing came to my windshield, and we're ducking because we're thinking this thing's going to crash right through the glass. It stopped right in front of my windshield, and as I'm moving 70 miles an hour, that thing stayed right there. And it looked like it was looking into us the way we were looking out of the glass. And then all of a sudden, it went, phew. It turned and went that way over a farm, and we never saw it again, and we looked at each other. We stopped the car, actually, because it shook us. First, we thought we were going to get hit. And this thing, it looked like it was looking in the windshield at us as we were looking out of this, and it was no bigger than that. And we looked at each other and said, what the hell just happened? And it was so surreal that we pulled the car over and we started looking over the farmland. That thing was gone, and this guy had hundreds of acres for cattle. That thing was completely gone in the 10 seconds it took me to pull the car over. That thing was completely gone, and this was before drones. Okay, drones are big now, so it could not have been a drone because, one, a drone could not have stopped that quickly, and it could not have hovered while I'm doing 70, and that thing stayed at my windshield. But we both felt that something was looking in the windshield of that car as we were looking at it, like with our jaws dropped. But that night, I thought, I'm going away. Here I go again. But nothing happened to me. But I felt like they were looking. It felt like they were looking. And it felt like they were looking at me, like, that's him, and we're checking. And then I was telling you earlier about my friend. His name's Chuck. and we were the best friends in the Army, and he died a few years ago. And he came to me one night in a dream, and we went into a wooded area, like this. But we went into this wooded area that was, it was remote, is a good word for it. There was no other human beings there. And we turned a corner, and there was this machinery. I mean, high-tech machinery everywhere in a remote section of the woods. You know, I mean, it was high-tech, and there was video, and there was audio, and there was everything there. I mean, way advanced stuff. And he told me they're always watching. And he told me a date, but I can't remember the date. Yeah, he told me a date in my head, but I've never been able to remember the date. I wrote it on the windshield of a car once, but I forgot it. But he told me a date when I think he said he's coming or they're going to come back. And he said, you have to do what's right because someone is always watching. And it made me think of all the experiences I had before. And I started to think, wait a minute. I grew up Catholic. Okay, I went to Christ the King grade school. I went to Archbishop Ryan Boys High School. I believe in God and Jesus. And I started questioning evolution, God, the Big Bang. And I'm like, maybe we were put here by another race as some kind of experiment, and they are watching us. And some of us get taken to see, you know, I mean, if you think about it, human beings, we're a little nuts. I mean, we have all this room here, and we fight over patches of ground. I mean, we kill each other over patches of ground. And I sometimes think that maybe, this is going to sound bad, sometimes we were a mistake by another race, and they come back to check on us and maybe set things right. I don't know, but I just had the distinct feeling that they all connected. I mean, all my experiences, if you want to call them abductions, I just felt that somehow they were all connected. And that when my friend who had passed, he passed and he knew now. But, you know, he showed me a glimpse and told me they're always watching. And that, at first I thought, oh, maybe it's angels or God watching. And I said, no, God wouldn't need that kind of technology. God is, you know, the all-seeing eye, ever present. And I still believe in God and Jesus. But I started questioning everything then, okay, like myself, the human race, this planet, okay, what we believe. I started questioning, maybe God also created other races of people, and that race, if you want to call it an alien race, of course that's what we call it, but we're aliens to them. Anyway, God created an alien race, and that alien race put us here, okay? And they come back to check on us. And I hear people say, well, why didn't you see them anymore? Well, they're more advanced than we were, so I think they're up there all the time, but we can't see them anymore. They're smart enough to get here, okay, when, I mean, the closest star system, the closest solar system is light years away. So they have to be way more advanced than us. I just think that, you know, they know how to get here without us knowing it all the time. You know, I think if there's a crash, it's a mistake. You know, I mean, they're not human, but maybe they make mistakes too. You know, and here's another thing I always thought about. People always carry a gun. Well, if I see an alien, I'll shoot him. Well, maybe that doesn't hurt them. Maybe your garden hose will. Who knows? Okay? Who knows? We don't know that. Maybe, you know, maybe if you hit them with a green bush, a fig tree, they die. You know? But I just started questioning everything, that last experience. It wasn't scary because my friend was with me, but he took me into a remote place, and I'm telling you, this whole area that we're parked in, this whole area, it was full. And the machines went all the way 50 feet into the air, and they were all over. There was no one watching them. There was no one controlling them, but my friend pointed to them and said, they're always here. They're always watching. And that was the end of the dream. And I thought, that was really strange. But then I started putting it all together, and I said, you know what? All this has happened to me I believe it's connected. And there is no one ever in my life, you cannot tell me, a priest, a psychologist, a parapsychologist, a doctor, you cannot tell me that this did not happen to me, because to me, I know a dream and I know when it's not a dream, and this was not a dream and this was real. These things happen to me. I'm just glad that I was never harmed. Like, I know some people, I've read in magazines where some people, they did tests on them and they were harmed. You know, X-Files does that kind of stuff. I was never harmed, but I did come back with markings. I did come back with unexplainable markings, and I thought it was really strange. My mom pointed out before she passed. She's like, "What? Don't you ever think about our scars?" And I'm like, "But see, that could be explained with genetics. You know, that could be our bodies were related." But she said, "Then why did they just appear after like a certain time? Why wasn't I born with that?" You know, and you could see there, you could see it in the light now. There it is right there. And the same one, this is right there. See that? Right there. And my daughter, my mother, me, all have the same markings, but we were not born with them, but they appeared. They appeared. And the one on my back, that is from, you can't forget it. I mean, it was never there before. And it appeared ninth grade in high school and is still there today. And I'm not scared. I'm actually, it actually kind of calms me down, because we're not alone. You know, if we were alone in all this, the way humans are, then I'd be scared, okay? But I truly believe that we're not alone, and before we nuke each other and kill each other, somebody's going to stop this craziness. You know, I mean, I've always said, and I've been in the Army my whole adult life, and combat over what? Money, oil, dirt, patches of dirt, please, okay? I always thought this is just craziness. There's a song by the same band I was telling you about called Right In Two, and it's about how there's enough here for all of us if we just cut it all right in two all the way down the line. And it talks about how human beings are really, we're some senseless people sometimes, and we'll fight over anything. And I thought, if the world is going to war again, this world, somebody's going to a nuke. How is this going to stop? I always thought either Jesus is coming out of the sky and putting a stop sign up and say, "Whoa, I'm back. No more of this," or the aliens who may have started this, are going to come and say, "Okay, that's enough. That's as far as we're going to let this go." You know, and because I don't see us getting out of it ourselves. We kill each other for nothing, you know, we really do. And I just think maybe if there's a God, I hope, I pray, I do pray still, and I just believe that God didn't just create Adam and Eve and us. Why would, if God is what we all think, why just us when there's all that? Okay, I mean, you look up into space, you're seeing a minuscule part of the universe. I mean, minuscule. Why? I just don't get people who think we're the only ones, and I never thought that. I thought, when I start looking up, and I thought, maybe that's why I was chosen, because I did believe. I don't know, because I'm sure there's people who have experiences or abductions who don't believe and are skeptics. But I've never been that, and I've always thought there's something else out there. You know, there's something else out there. And I think if God created us and created the universe, why would he just populate this planet? Come on. That doesn't make sense to me. If you think about it realistically, with the vastness of space, does that make sense? That we're the only populated planet? Doesn't make sense to me. So I always believed that maybe that's why I had the experiences I did. And it's never scared me. I mean, I was fearful when I knew I was flying and I was paralyzed on a table. But I was told not to, and I've never harmed. But I've never seen another human being and any of my experiences, all 4 or 5 of them, never saw another person, never heard another person. And I was in a room, I guess, I don't know the size right here. Right here, I was in a room, and they were over there, and they were pushing buttons and looking at monitors, and just, they communicated by clicks. Click, 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 like. like that, but louder. I can't do it, but they were louder, and I could see them talking to each other. And when one clicked, one would shake his head and push something else, and then look back at me to see if I was okay. I was fearful because of the power. I guess it was a paralytic or whatever they did, but I never got really scared, and I never worried if I was going back. I guess it was fine with me. I guess because I would never hurt, and I had never met anyone else. I don't know anyone else with that. But I had never read about anyone else that was really hurt back then. I mean, now people say, they had their teeth drilled and they had chips put in them. I don't have any of that. My teeth were never drilled. I don't have any chips in me. My dog has a chip, but I don't have a chip. Yet humans will get there soon, but I don't have anything like that, but I do have the markings. And that's how I know for sure that what happened to me happened to me. In my head, I know, and in my body with the markings, it doesn't come from nothing, and it's not cancerous, and it's there, and it's not scar tissue because it's never had a scab on it, anything like that, and no one could ever explain to me. I mean, doctors in different states, different countries said, "What the heck is that?" I don't know. It's been there a long time, and it ain't going away. We have turned this world sideways. I believe that. I mean, it's just sideways now. It really is. I get scared I have a grandson, and I keep wondering what kind of world is he going to grow up in. The internet, it was created by the Army, but it has ruined society. It has ruined your children. I don't know if you guys have kids, but children have access to anything they want, a touch of a button. And that technology is amazing. I mean, microchip technology we talked about, if you go back and see, it was Roswell, the military. Why the military? Why wasn't it IBM that made the internet? It came from the military. Why? I believe they found those microchips. It was alien technology. We didn't know anything about that. Now, lasers, microchips, the whole 9 yards. Where did that come from? It just popped up after Roswell, the internet, and then microchips. I mean, it goes like a straight line, goes right to it. And I'm saying, I hope I have one more experience, to be honest. And that's about it. I do. I hope it happens one more time. But I hope I remember more. I would like to feel I told you about my experience with my sister's friend who had passed. I felt being transported from Germany to Philadelphia. I felt it. It didn't hurt. My hair wasn't blowing. Okay, my clothes weren't, but I could feel myself moving through some kind of vortex, whatever, and I went from Germany, bomb-holder Germany, to Philadelphia in seconds. Like I went through a door in time, and I told you the experience. How could I possibly have known any of that if it didn't happen? I believe it's all connected. I believe everything's connected, actually. It's like a Taoist thing, but I believe everything is just connected and circles. Maybe that's why some of the craft are circles. I believe they move by light. What is the fastest thing we know? Speed of light. I believe that they have somehow harnessed the power of moving light, and that's what gets them boom, 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 because we can't do that. Our best rockets, we can't do that. We're still using fuel. I don't think they use fuel. Okay, if they're light years away, and maybe they put this into my head, I don't know, but if they're light years away, and that craft, how could it possibly carry enough fuel? It couldn't. They would have to have one of those things Star Trek has, those little rocks.
Warp drive, crystal.
They would have those crystals, yeah. They would have those crystals and a warp drive. I think everybody that has described, not everybody, but most of us who have described seeing those craft, your wife, light. And I kept saying to myself, somehow they have harnessed the power and speed of a light, and that's how they move, and they do it silently. And I was showing my girlfriend the other day, we're coming down this road, and it's dark, there's no lights back here, and she didn't know what speed of light meant, really, and I said, here, I'm going to show you. We stopped the truck, I turned the lights off, and I'm like, see that sign up there on the farm? She goes, yeah. I'm like, watch this when I turn the lights on. I said, how fast? She goes, oh my God, you're right, I never even noticed. It's instantly. I think that's how they do it, but I never felt transported, but I knew I was going from my bed to some kind of craft, and I felt flying. It's the one time when I was in Germany, I felt the transport. It was different. It was very different. It was really different, and it was really cool. It wasn't scary. Some people may have been scared by it, but I wasn't scared at all. Not at all. And it was kind of enlightening, and I believed after that there's something after this. You know, there's something. You ever hear people with near-death experiences and they're dead for 6 minutes on the table and stuff like that? I didn't see Jesus light, but I saw that white light that did not hurt to look into, and I felt for sure that there's something else after this. And for that reason only, I'm not scared to die. I've never been scared to die, but I am not scared of death because I really believe that there's something else out there. Maybe it's up there with them. I don't know. But after that experience, the only time I was fearful was when I realized I was paralyzed somehow. And I was just scared. And what happened? In my head, they said, you don't have to fear. You don't have to fear. And that kind of calmed me down. And after that, I kind of said, okay, I was abducted. I had just had some kind of experience. I know I did. You know, I could never explain it, but I think I'm more comfortable with it now as an adult, and I would actually welcome it now. You know, I look out the window sometime and say, here I am. Oh, remember me? Come over. That's my story.
Be sure to check out our website at hillcityparanormal.com. And thank you for listening.